What happened to that abomination? Where did it go? Is it really dead, or is it lurking out there with a new final form? I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. This thing is the Antichrist of the Alien franchise, okay? It is a bastardized version of our supposed gods. You know, the engineers, the creatures that created us. It is that if humanity corrupt it and turn it into something dark and satanic looking, for God's sakes. Now, we've seen various hybrids across the Alien franchise. We saw the newborn in Alien Romulus, this grotesque baby-looking thing that hybridized with the xenomorph and killed its queen. We see the Predalien, a hybrid between a predator and alien. We see a predator who got injected with the pathogen and turned into a mutated predator, right? We've seen many of these hybrids before, but this is different. This is like taking a full refined injection streamed right into the veins of a pregnant woman, and it affects the fetus. It turns the fetus into an abomination. This is the fastest growth and development we've ever seen of any creature in the Alien franchise, period, okay? The xenomorphs, they're fast growing, right? Some of them will incubate in a sack, right? Some of them will just run away after the chest bursting, and then within an hour or 30 minutes, they'll be fully grown, right? But this thing grew in a matter of seconds, in a matter of like 2 minutes. 2 minutes, this thing grew to the point where it could kill anybody in the room, for God's sakes. This is beyond any level of development we've seen, and a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are like, why? Why is this such a convenient thing for the plot? Why does this thing just grow so fast when we've seen xenomorphs take like an hour or some shit to grow? Why? There's a reason for this. And people don't think this creature is very scary, okay? They despise the way this thing looks. They either prefer the xenomorph or something that looked more xeno. They don't like the look of this being, which is wild to me because I love the fact that this is all practical. They use an actual actor, a tall dude, to play this character. Most people would complain it was fully CGI, let's be honest. And I like the fact that we got something different than just a xenomorph. I'm okay with seeing something a little bit different in an alien movie than seeing xenomorphs attack people in a ship for the entire runtime, okay? I'm glad that we went a bit different with it. I know people don't like it, but here's why this thing is so scary. It's fucking Gabe. I mentioned this before, people agreed. Imagine if this dude shaved his head bald and his physique was that of a xenomorph's. Is this not one of the scariest things you'd ever have in a room with you? If you were to come across any creature in a room, this is one of the last things you'd want, other than Calvin, this is one of the last things you'd want to be in a room with. That's terrifying. That's scarier to me than a xenomorph. I'm gonna be real, okay? But the worst part is this thing isn't fully grown. This thing's a fucking teenager, maybe. It just hit puberty when we saw it. When it slashed Andy's throat, it just hit puberty. We don't know the full extent of this being, okay? Now, again, why did it develop so fast? Why when a xenomorph takes like 30 minutes to an hour, did this thing develop in seconds? The pathogen that was used to inject her, that went into her fetus, was a refined form of pathogen used and experimented on different animals to grow them for healing purposes and growth purposes. The whole point of it is to speed things up. That's the point. That's what it was made for. That's what it was refined for. They took pathogen out of a xenomorph's DNA and used it to build on other beings, to alter them, to mutate them, but also speed it up. They wanted it for purposes of biological nature, to heal people, right? The Prometheus fire. This was Weyland's entire legacy. They wanted to make humans beyond what they were. They wanted to make humans gods, so that when they're working on mines, they wanted a labor force that was immune to the conditions of mines and shit, right? This could be used for all purposes. It's used to speed things up. That's why. So imagine if you take a whole bunch of it that hasn't been done in human trials yet, you stab it into a pregnant woman, and it goes into her fetus. It's over. It's over. Growth is the main idea here. The pathogen was refined for some kind of growth, whether it's speeding up healing and growing a healing factor or whatever the fuck, okay? And remember, she lactates pathogen, and it feeds on it for further growth. Listen to this, okay? What would he have become? What would he have turned into? We've seen concept arts of what they had in mind for what this being's true form would have looked like. We've seen alternate designs. We saw this one that's eyeless. This is one of the most terrifying ones in my opinion, but it probably looked a bit too much like the typical xenomorph or like the neomorphs that we've seen, so they abandoned this, right? They were originally going to go for a creature that was turning more and more to a xenomorph over time, to the point where its tail, the way it moved, everything would resemble a xenomorph. It would shed its goddamn skin and go full xenomorph mode, right? But they abandoned this. I don't think they wanted to go with the traditional xenomorph look. I think they wanted to create a different being altogether. But then there's another concept art that I want to focus on. Something that would have told us what this being would have become eventually. See, this creature does become more and more xenomorph-esque, but it grows and grows beyond that into something far, far more devious, far, far more crazy. It grows to the point where it has a tail that's more elongated than any xenomorph we've seen, and it starts to grow fucking wings. It has multiple appendages, and it grows wings. It's like Calvin, if Calvin and a human had a child. Why? Now, they abandoned this as well, because I think it would have been too much to put in the movie. But fans probably would have complained as usual, are really giving him wings, for God's sake. You know, it would have been too much too soon. And I agree with that decision. But this is very interesting. This mindset that the filmmakers had when they came up with this is very interesting. Why did they do this? Why did they come up with a being that has wings that looks the way it does? Why abandon just him turning into a xenomorph? Why did they do that? Why did they want to make this creature a bit different? Think about the way the pathogen works. Every time a person gets into contact with it and becomes mutated with it, any being that becomes mutated by this thing becomes more xenomorph in nature. Whether it's a fucking whale or a person. Everything that's created from the pathogen has xenomorph characteristics, a xenomorph physique, the goddamn deacon, the neomorph. Think about the xenomorph shape. One of the scientists that gets infected in the Prometheus movie, originally, his original design was supposed to be more xenomorph-esque straight up, but they abandoned it. I think they deleted it because they were like, no. We don't want to give away that this is too much xeno, you know? But there's a reason for this. All roads lead to this. Why? I believe that the pathogen is an accelerant that accelerates natural evolution. I believe the peak of evolution is the xenomorph design. The perfect organism, right? That's the whole purpose behind it. I believe that's what one the filmmakers were all getting at the end of the day. That all the roads lead to this. Something about the xenomorph design is like peak. It's literally peak. But then we have this that goes into the xenomorph design, but then starts to manifest into other things, right? There's no way a human pathogen hybrid should have wings. That makes no sense. Especially if you're just turning it more xenomorph-like, unless it's a bat, unless you're throwing bat DNA in there or something that has wings, there's no reason it should become this. So why did it start to grow wings, grow a longer tail, grow multiple tentacle-like appendages? Why did it start to go beyond a xenomorph just off of a simple human DNA? Why? Why is it lactating pathogen for it to suck on? What is all this? This thing has the potential to be larger, stronger than the typical xenomorph, and it's airborne as well. It has multiple. It might not be as fast as a xenomorph. Not that we've seen it anyways. We haven't seen it crawling on all fours yet, thank God. If it just did that to attack, we might be screwed. But it can fly. That's the issue. You know what I've been thinking, guys? I don't think the xenomorph itself was the perfect organism. I think the queen was. But imagine a queen that can fly. Imagine a being that's a xenomorph that has all the strengths of a xenomorph, but that can self-replicate. It can birth new xenomorphs. It can prolong a species. That's a perfect organism. But imagine you put wings on that shit. It can fly now too. You're fucked. That's a perfect organism. So, if we're leaning into that, could this offspring have evolved to the point where it grew wings? But could it have had queen-like traits? Could it give birth? Could it seed life? Well, here's the thing. Maybe, but not in the way we anticipate. Think about the deacon. The deacon was born out of an engineer. Remember, the deacon was named by Ridley off of like actual deacons in churches, and like in the Catholic Church, because of their hats. But also, they're there to help the community, so that leaders can focus on spiritual growth. They attend to the church's needs, right? They're there to accentuate the community. In many ways, that is a deacon's role. In the comics, the deacon, it's almost like a self-Jesus-like sacrifice. It accentuates its pathogenness so that it can, I don't know if that's a word, it accentuates the pathogen within itself to grow an entire ecosystem. It grows a fucking mountain out of itself, y'all. It grows life, but in a very, very unorthodox way. It doesn't birth life by self-replicating itself through face huggers and creating eggs, right? It does it in a different way. But perhaps the offspring has this ability because it uses pathogen, feeds on pathogen. Maybe it can accentuate pathogen, but I don't think so. Think about the xenomorphs. The xenomorphs are like a bastardization of the Jesus-like sacrifice nature of the deacon. The deacon accentuates itself and grows mountains, grows ecosystems. This thing, it kills ecosystems to further its own kind, to further its race. It implants itself across a race of beings, to assimilate them into a more Xeno-like species. It creates eggs and creates a hive. It creates a whole other variation of life. Rather than accentuating itself to create more life around it, no, it kills things to create more life around it. It creates a hive, but it's still creating life. This thing is a bastardization of both those things. It doesn't use the pathogen to create more life. It feeds on the pathogen so it can further its own growth and kill people. It doesn't create eggs. It doesn't use facehuggers. It doesn't create a hive to create more life, at least not that we've seen yet. It simply exists to kill. It's to survive and kill. That's it. It doesn't exist to further anyone's life. Xenomorphs do that. They might kill people to do it, but they still further their own hive, right? This thing is a purely selfish being. It is the Antichrist. It exists to kill. So it goes beyond the nature of a xenomorph. The xenomorphs exist to assimilate, right? To create more of themselves, right? They're the perfect organism, right? They're like an all-encompassing force of death. This thing is a one-man killing machine. There is no other life. There's no life for him besides this. He's built to serve itself only. He's one of the only beings, the Yaoja engineers, xenomorphs, neomorphs, whatever. They all exist to serve. They serve a community in many ways, right? Even though one's a hunter and they all serve others too. They're all part of a community. This thing only serves itself. So you can imagine it grows into something that furthers that function, right? Doesn't need to birth any more beings. It simply flies, kills, and seeks the next pathogen source. That's it. That's why it's so terrifying. It's the devil. What happened to it? It got cast out of the ship at the end of Alien Romulus. Did it die? Did it burn to death? Did it get hit by debris? Did it get hit by ice or something on the way out? I think it molded itself into a cocoon like Big Chap did at the end of the first Alien. And they found Big Chap in space and Big Chap was able to escape and kill people, right? I think that's exactly what happens now. I think he can evolve the same way where his body adapts to outer space. He'll survive it and he'll keep growing, and then his wings will turn into like a cocoon-like shape, protecting him in a shell, in a sack, like it did when he was a child, when he was an infant, in the same way. Except this time it uses the pathogen it fed from her breasts, and it's growing as it's cocooning itself. So its final form is slowly being webbed around and cocooned. All throughout space, this thing is in a rock somewhere, waiting and festering. This entire Alien series, this thing has been waiting and festering at the end of some corner of the universe, like this Lovecraftian eldritch being that's locked away. And all it takes is for a bunch of low IQ humans to find it, open it up, and we might get the first fucking xenomorph dragon. We might get a freaking dragon that's waiting to pounce on anyone. This thing might rival the Predillion in terms of power, in terms of like the alpha of the alien species. This is the apex predator. The Predillion is the apex predator of the series. This thing might get rivaled. And I do think the Predillion kills everyone. Like, I think the Predillion would still beat it, because Predillion's like a predator and an alien queen put together. You don't beat that. You're not beating that very easily. But this thing could maybe rival that. Its final form could maybe rival that. Who knows? If you want to know why the Predillion is so disgusting and is one of the most vile creatures ever, and it might be the devil of the series, watch this video here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on a mission to take over Hollywood. But the army must keep growing. If you want to suggest video topics to me, or talk about your favorite movies or favorite film theories in a community with like-minded individuals, join the Zafy Discord now. Link is in the description and the comment section as well. Join us. This movement is just beginning. We're taking over Hollywood, one coke line at a time.